Chinese New Year that this industrious little community in Spain is most visible. From small shopkeepers to the heads of large companies, the Chinese parade together through Madrid's Old Town. Only 165,000 Chinese are registered as living in the country, but in terms of business, they punch above their weight. 1 out of every 4 new businesses in Spain is Chinese. Their success story began here in this enormous business park, Cobo Calleja, in the suburbs of the Spanish capital. Warehouse after warehouse stretching over hundreds of hectares, Cobo Calleja is the largest complex of Chinese wholesalers in Europe. It's no wonder that China's ambassador to Spain spends every New Year here.
The future isn't very promising for the whole of the European Union, and particularly for Spain. Even if there is economic growth, it will be very weak. Don't expect things to get better tomorrow. You need to be totally prepared, and you need to remain united.
That New Year's speech was given on the land of one of the most powerful Chinese businessmen at Cobo Calleja, Mao Feng, standing behind the ambassador to have a group photo taken. Mao bought €9 million worth of warehouses here in 2005. The small empire he's created since has earned him the honour of rubbing shoulders with the Spanish royal family.
This was China-Spain summit, organised in Beijing. And yes, I was part of the commercial delegation.
Like most of the Chinese we interviewed, Mao gives us few precise figures about his business. But what we do know is that when he arrived here about 15 years ago, he was a waiter in a Chinese restaurant. Today he owns 60 wholesale stores like this one and about a dozen companies.
The district running Cobo Calleja organised a meeting with us, the Chinese entrepreneurs, to get to know our needs and adapt their policies accordingly. We talked with them, negotiated, and finally we wrote the laws governing Cobo Calleja. It's clear the local government backs us.
The local authority has clearly done all it can to help the Chinese here. The result, Cobo Calleja is an enclave where all the capital, goods and profits are Chinese.
We've come to film you. It's good publicity. How's business?
Good. Very good.
Our clients are mainly Spanish, but we also have Portuguese, Italian, French clients.
So Southern Europe is a good market for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Night has fallen in the Spanish capital, but there's still business to be done for the Chinese. We're with Amanda Ku, a 29-year-old entrepreneur. You run around very quickly all the time.
Yes, people have told me you rush around too much, you go too fast.
This busy young woman is one of the rising stars in the Chinese business world in Madrid. From a relatively humble family, she came here 3 years ago with a clear goal.
There are always opportunities in times of crisis. I've never been frightened of this crisis. On the contrary, companies have to diversify away from their national market. This crisis is our opportunity.
This young woman, who arrived at the end of 2008 with a few $100s in her pocket to study a master's degree, takes us to the Madrid jet set's favourite night spots. Tonight's event is organised by the ABC, one of the most prestigious business clubs of the city. Amanda has access to the VIP zone.
I'm very busy. I go out a lot to these networking events. I invite friends. That way I have the time to see them. And my friends who work in all different fields can all make contact with each other.
In Amanda's age group, 52% of Spaniards are unemployed. Amanda has found a niche as a consultant, helping Spanish companies set up in Asia and vice versa, in the fashion sector, for instance.
She not only helps us in our Asian market strategy, but we can also employ her as a stylist.
Isn't he nice?
And the best thing is that now we share a lot of the same friends. Cheers.
Spain has only recently started to target the Chinese market, but it's making up for lost time. Last year, exports to China represented 3 billion euros, 12% more than in 2010. The crisis in Europe has even pushed some Spanish companies to set up in Asia. Amanda has tapped into that trend. Here we are at the Luxury Purple Club. The annual joining fee is 12,000 euros. Top footballers and the heads of large companies are members. They come here to close deals and to buy exclusive products.
This is real luxury. You can personalize your iPad cover. It's real crocodile skin.
Adolfo gives Amanda her first full tour of the club. He wants to sign her up to develop the same concept in Shanghai.
In the luxury sector, China is the most important market at the moment. We regularly deal with large jewelry firms, and the Chinese market makes up 60% of their trade.
The first job in hand, the pair are organising a select soirée for Chinese businessmen visiting Madrid in a few weeks.
I suggest we take them on a totally private guided tour of one of the most important museums in the world. We have a deal with them to take them on a private tour after the museum is closed. And then we'll do wine tasting. Sounds good, no?
Sí, perfecto. Muy bien, muy bien. Sí, sí.
We leave the chic neighbourhoods of the city centre and head for Madrid's suburbs. With thousands of empty new flats still unsold, the town parlour has become a symbol of Spain's burst property bubble. Some firms, though, are finding strong demand from Chinese customers. They're targeting the community with advertising in Mandarin and Chinese estate agents.
Today, 50% of our customers are Chinese. Banks now only trust Spaniards or Chinese people. We have survived in this tough property market thanks to the Chinese community. Before the crisis, 4 years ago, there were 140 property companies. Today, there are no more than 20.
This agency has painted Mandarin slogans on its cars. It is addressing those Chinese immigrants who are rapidly joining the middle class. Most of them originally came from the poor region of Zhejiang, like this customer in the brown jacket who wants to buy her first home. Since the housing bubble burst, the flat she's looking at has lost half its value. It's now on the market for 60,000 euros.
Before, I never would have dreamed of owning my own shop. Now we're going to have an apartment.
The sale speaks volumes about Spain's crisis and the changing shift in global wealth. The home being bought was repossessed from a Spanish family when they couldn't pay the mortgage.
There are financing networks among these families from friends. It's very easy for the Chinese to raise money. If they need an extra 3,000 euros at the last minute, they can raise it overnight.
Access to credit from family and friends at zero interest partly explains the success of Chinese entrepreneurs in Madrid. We see this in practice in Usera, a working-class Chinatown in the Spanish capital. Among the shops here is a small business that organises every aspect of a Chinese wedding. Miao, a second-generation immigrant, is the owner.
It wasn't difficult to set up our business. Our families lent us the money. Chinese people help each other out a lot by lending each other money. The second-generation Chinese have grown up and are starting to marry. So there's a market.
After dressing and making up the bride, Miao invites us to the wedding. This young business leader earns a lot more than the average Spaniard. For every wedding, her company charges between 17 and 25,000 euros.
What I'm doing is really revolutionary. The older members of my family, the first generation, all have corner shops or restaurants. My generation is changing. We want to tap new niches and other sectors.
We meet back up with Mao, the wholesaler of Cobo Calleja. For him, political relations between China and Spain have helped business between the two countries. Madrid doesn't broach subjects that are taboos to the Beijing government. Mao may have lived here for more than 15 years, but he has little time for Spaniards demonstrating against austerity cuts.
These protests don't help the country at all. It's one of the big cultural differences between us.
Mao has brought us to his Chinese academy, where students can learn Mandarin, among other activities. The business has come into its own since the start of the Spanish downturn.
People see Chinese now as the language of the future. A lot of students, pupils come here in order to boost their careers and their country's economy.
There aren't any official figures for how much capital the Chinese invest every year in Spain. Millions and millions of euros, say experts. One thing is certain, they are a driving force in the Spanish economy if the determination of business people like Amanda is anything to go by. How much does she aim to earn in 5 years' time, we asked.
As much as possible. My family says to me that would be a safer route, and I always reply, really? But perhaps this one is a better one, a route to a better life.
Spanish banks are in the line of fire over their billions of euros of property debt. As if to underline the world's changing balance of power, China's ICBC, the world's largest bank, has opened up in Madrid, on the same street as the Bank of Spain.